I told her, I went, what's going on? I said, I expected to hear from you sooner. I needed you. And she said something that really hurt me at the time. She said, Rita, you've always got your shit together. And I really thought that I'd be a hindrance as opposed to a help. She said, I didn't think that you did need me. And when she said that, the reason it felt like a slap across the face is because I was like, that's actually what I put out. Like I put out this, there's nothing messy to see here. We are all under control, right?
What if the most impressive thing about a leader isn't that they've got it all figured out, but they're honest about the fact that they haven't? I spent years coaching senior leaders, and I reckon the ones who really shift how they lead are the ones who stop what I'd call performing certainty, and instead they let people see the parts that they're still figuring out. In this episode, I've pulled together 5 voices from the Dig Deeper archive who have each found their own way into that idea. And you'll get to hear stories like taking a career break on gut instinct alone, or one where the rock bottom for that person became a turning point, reclaiming your own way of leading rather than performing someone else's ways, and admitting out loud that you've still got your L plates on, and learning to lead without it needing to be about you at all. And these aren't stories really about arriving and having it all figured out. They're stories instead about staying in motion while you figure it out. Hi, I'm Digby Scott, and this is Dig Deeper, a podcast where I have conversations with depth that will change the way you lead. My first guest spent 26 years and 21 jobs figuring out that a squiggly career isn't a problem to fix. It's just what an honest one looks like. Jodi Willocks led through COVID, like most of us, without any of the answers. She took a career break with no plan and found that trusting her gut mattered more than having it all worked out.
COVID, actually.
Huh, okay.
Yeah, it's funny, the questions that you sent through to me before this, one of them, you asked me how I was leading at that time that we met. And the word that came to mind for me, weirdly, and I didn't want to write it down or even share it today, but I'm going to, was tentative. In hindsight, that's how I felt I was leading when you and I first met. And what COVID did for me is it, you know, when you're sort of cast into kind of the fire, basically, and I felt like I was, as a leader, a relatively young leader, I was thrown right into this deep end of this intense pressure and stress of leading through the COVID years. And I was leading a service business at that stage. So we were totally at the mercy of what our clients were doing, and they were doing all sorts of things depending on what impact COVID was having on their business. And I realised during that period that the only way I could lead effectively was to lead in a way that was really aligned with my values and true to who I was as a person. And that forced me to get crystal clear on what my core values were. And I realised that 2 of them were optimism and empathy. And I thought, if I can just get through each day knowing that I've led in a way that is true to those 2 things and use them as my guardrails, then it's been a good day.
So I get the sense you had to go into the forge, if you like, the forge of COVID. Nick Petrie is a leadership researcher. He talks about having a heat experience, right? And that's the thing that rewires you or upgrades your operating system. And it sounds like that was your heat experience.
Yeah, it definitely was. It was a challenging time for many leaders, and a lot of people have underestimated the pressure and the challenges that leaders had to work through during that phase. But 100%, I love that framing. Yeah. Upgraded my operating system. Well, certainly my mental perspective on how I saw myself.
Can you remember any particular moment that was the turning point, or a conversation you might have had where it's like, I've got a choice here. I could be the tentative version, or I could be the version who leads into optimism and energy. And was it kind of like this is me choosing that path or not?
There were probably a series of moments, but the ones that are most at the forefront of my mind are the times where early on in COVID, well, through COVID, obviously everybody was working remotely. And one of the things I set up for our team was a regular kind of Zoom meeting, basically, just to update everybody on where things were at and bring everyone together and just communicate with them okay, this decision has been made by the government, or we're at this level now, this is what it means for us, here's what's going to happen. And I found those moments when I was in them quite isolating, because I felt that I was sitting there with all of these people's lives and mortgages and families and responsibilities sort of in my hands, and I needed to do the best thing by them. And so I just got into this cadence of communicating really openly and regularly with people. And what came about as a consequence of that is I just got so much wonderful feedback from everyone, thanking me for being honest and vulnerable and not always having the answers, but being there to reassure them that their interests were forefront for me and that we were making decisions with their best interests at heart. So it was the feedback that I got from the team that reassured me that I was doing the right thing.
Yeah, there's a positive feedback loop there, right? Isn't it? It's just, I'm going to try this. It's a bit scary, but what other choice do I have? And then the immediate, keep going, Jodi. That's awesome. You know, the gift of COVID, right? It's
one way to put it.
We can say that now looking back. Obviously not for everyone. I think that's a really powerful lesson, isn't it? Because we can interpret challenging times, you know, those heat experiences, and we can call them bad. We can call them, oh, I wish I didn't have to do that or go through that. Yet, I suspect you've probably heard plenty of people say that was the making of me, that heat experience, or that was the thing that changed everything for me. You know, for me, it was a burnout that I had back when I was in my 30s and I was the national manager of a recruitment company, and I had no idea what I was doing. I went down into a very dark place after I burned out. Yet that forced me, like it forced you by the sounds of it, to ask, well, what am I actually about? How do I want to contribute to this situation in a positive way? And what do I bring to the situation? And I think there's something about not labeling those really challenging times as bad. It's more of a, all right, well, what could this teach me? Or what's the opportunity here?
I think you're right, because I definitely gained a lot from that. One of the little mantras we often use with our kids is just be yourself and do your best, you know, and that was something that I thought about a lot leading through COVID, because I realised that for me to be myself, I needed to show up in line with my values every day. So I'd get to the end of each day and go, well, was I myself today? Was I true to my values? Yeah. Did I do the best I could today? Yeah. Okay. It's been a good day.
Jodi's gut told her when to lead and when to step back. Sarah Manley's gut told her something else entirely, that she was at rock bottom, and that rock bottom wasn't the end of her story. Sarah's the chief executive of Mighty New Zealand, and what she shares next is about as unfinished and as honest as leadership conversations can get.
Yes, yeah. Well, I think the versions of ourselves, the best versions of ourselves, are often in those moments that no one sees or no one knows or understands what's going on back here. And I'm quite open to share that just even in the last year, I had a really horrible situation, and it was at a really defining moment of my life. So I was happily engaged, recently engaged, very happy, had met this wonderful man, and he was wonderful to my son. And long story short, he began to have, some mental health issues, which of course I wanted to be really supportive of, because it all happens to us and you want to support the person that you love. There was months of some really poor behavior, I guess, which I thought was mental health, but actually as things were unpeeled, it was a lot worse than that. And there was a lot of lies. Essentially, there was a lot of deceit and toxicity that was happening. And it all happened around me. And, you have that moment of waking up. I woke up one morning and went, oh my goodness, like the rug is literally being pulled now right from under my feet. This man isn't who I thought he was. In fact, you've been sold a complete story here. There's no truth at all in this version of this man and this life that you thought you were just about to have, and you've planned everything around it, like big planning and buying a home and moving a home and the big thing, opening your child's life to somebody else and letting that person in to the person that you love the most. So, and at the same time, I was trying to lead an organization. trying to lead an organization through a really difficult time. I think everybody knows the last 12, 24 months in New Zealand, no matter what sector you've been working in, no matter what you've been doing, it's been hard. And suddenly I'm there and I'm like, I want the world to swallow me up. How has this happened? Like I'm meant to be at the top of my professional game and personal, like it was all so exciting. And now my whole world has completely flipped on its head in front of everybody in like 15, 20 seconds. But in that moment where it suddenly became clear to me that, oh my goodness, okay, this is rock bottom. Like you are here. This is literally, you are now at rock bottom. It was that moment that I went, okay, Sarah, it's happened and it's horrible and it's going to take a while to work through. But you were called for bigger things than this moment. This moment is not going to define me. This is a horrible chapter and I can close it and I can close it gracefully as I work through it. But this is not where it ends for me. This, in fact, if anything, is going to motivate me for that next chapter to do better and to never find myself in a situation like this again, and to pick up on the little things that we feel, but we don't unpick them because we're thinking with our love filter, and actually be really unstoppable in saying it's only up from here. If you have that sense of purpose, I really believe this, if you know your purpose and you have a strong conviction about wanting to achieve things or do things or be someone, when you're at rock bottom, it will get you through. Be it slowly, it will get you through.
That's an incredible story. And there's something about the way you said, and I'm paraphrasing, you are meant for better things than this or bigger things than this. There's something about that. You said that to yourself, that reminder or that permission or that invitation, that just opens up possibility in front of you. And also when you're talking about rock bottom, you can't go any further down. It's rock. And so there's only one way from here, which is up. And that towards a bigger thing, a better thing, that's an incredible way of operating. That can't have been easy, though, to be able to say that to yourself. How did others help through that period?
Oh, yeah, it was incredible. And I do always reflect, Digby, and I'm a very lucky person. When I realized suddenly what was going on and that it was actually dangerous on a whole range of levels and something had to be done, I was very lucky to have the education, the money, the support network to get me out of that situation and put things in place that needed to be put in place. And I shudder to think that you do realize that things such as domestic violence and psychological abuse and, a whole range of things can be happening to people. And there's so many people that can't get out of that situation actually, because you suddenly realize, well, actually, if you don't know how to and you don't have people to get you through it, how can you? I learned a lot during that time, Digby, because I had to be real. I had to be honest. I had to sit and go, okay, this really horrible thing has happened, but you're in a leadership role. You're in a really important organization doing important work. So now you have to lean in to the people who love you, both personally, and the people who care for you professionally. And I just have to be honest and I have to be real and I have to tell people that this has happened. I have to tell people that I'm going through something really gnarly and I'm going to have good days and bad days, but I'm going to be here. And then I just had to be, in terms of other people, this is where you, I think, often see the best of people, because I was so lucky to have a team that said, you know what, Sarah, we've got this, we've got it. So you just hand over what you need to hand over to us and we've got you. And they really, truly did. That was the board. That was JK who rang me one night. And when I told him and he listened, and I'll never forget, he said, Sarah, do you want to go somewhere with your son for a few months and work from there? Like, would that help if you just physically get out of your environment for a while and just go work somewhere else? And of course I joked, Greek islands would be fabulous. But just being honest and telling people and just being real and vulnerable and saying this really crap thing has happened. I'm sorry, this is how it is at the moment. Everybody was just there for me, family, friends, colleagues. And I think if anyone was listening to this podcast now, and, my advice would be when you're at rock bottom, please reach out to others. Other people really want to help, but people can't help if they don't know what's going on for you.
Sarah asked for help when she needed it most. My next guest, Nicola Nation, found a quieter kind of courage. The courage to stop being a copy of the leader before her and start being herself instead. Nicola's the former chief executive of the Arkina Foundation, and she's about to tell you what it costs to claim your own space.
Yeah, 100%. So I've reflected on this quite a lot because I became chief executive at an organisation that I'd already been at for 3.5 years. And I thought, oh, this is great. You know, I know the lay of the land. I know how the business model works. I know the people, etc. But what I didn't appreciate is that I was trying to be a version of the previous chief executive because that was the role model. And it wasn't until I went, I'm going to be a really bad version of that. And that thought bouncing around in my head, which was just be you, and then having to dig deeper and be like, but what does that mean? What does being me mean?
Yeah.
And actually stepping into that, which was quite scary, and recognizing that people were responding positively to that. That was pretty cool.
What's the scary bit about being you, do you think?
Well, there's parts of me that are perhaps aren't things that I aspire to or am proud of. I said to my team recently, I said, Arkina's been through a pretty tough time. I said, you've seen the best of me and you've seen the worst of me. And, you know, when you front up with your full self, not every day is an A day. You're trying your best, but actually sometimes my communication might have been a bit sharp because I was a bit stressed or feeling like I was being dragged into things that I didn't want to be dragged into, for example, which was recognizing that there was a pattern I'd created at the same time. So what was being scary about being myself was like, but what if people don't like that version of me?
Mm-hmm.
And they all choose to leave? Ow.
Yeah. It's like, I didn't sign up for that.
Holding the mirror up.
Yeah. It's interesting, right? Because I think my experience tells me we respond to people's flaws if they're honest about it. And, you know, I think that it shows the humanity behind the mask, you know, behind the title. And I feel like that's more of what we need. It doesn't mean being all soft and woo-woo. It means just being real. And I think it starts with an acceptance that, hey, this is who I am and I'm okay with that. And, man, that has been a journey for me. You know, this, and even now, right? It's funny, right? Because I'm recording from Oakura, which is a place I love in Taranaki. I'm up here for primarily some writing, just to get away. And I still struggle with sharing what I'm doing with people, which is so silly because I have this little voice in my head. It's a small voice, but it's still there saying, oh, you're so, you know, privileged to be able to do that. And I probably am, to be able to make this happen. And then there's this little voice that says, so people are going to judge you for that and all that sort of stuff. But then I go, there's a louder voice that says, yeah, but it's also showing what's possible. And it's actually, more importantly, what will help me be good in the world as a leader. And that creating permission to just get what you need is something that I'm really thinking about a lot at the moment. How do I create and get that so I can be of service? You know, it's the old put your own oxygen mask on first. What are your sort of rituals and ways of getting what you need?
Great question. I'm going to come back to ask you what you're writing about, Digby. That interests me.
Yeah.
I think I have become a ruthless prioritizer. And that comes back to over-responsible, under-responsible. So, you know, write the long list of all the things and then look at it. And I don't mean all the things at work, all the things. Like, okay, which of these give me joy? Which of these do I actually really want to do? And sometimes it's prioritizing going to the kids cross country, and other times it's like, oh, I can get out of going to the kids cross country. So being honest with myself about, I guess, where I want to show up, where I want to spend my time, and then
really practical things. I'm a really pragmatic person, blocking that out in my calendar and making sure, and this was something that I've learnt and am always needing to practice, making sure there's enough space to walk home from work so I can have a think about things. So there's enough space to give my mum a call and be that rounded person that I want to be, and giving myself permission to turn up as the leader that I want to be, which is like bringing a little bit of fun into the workplace. You may have seen on LinkedIn, I baked a 7th birthday cake for the team because it was my 7th birthday.
That's so cool.
And well, why not? And it was covered in this terrible bright blue icing, and my hands were like a Smurf. And but when I slow down is when I remember, oh, that's right, it's so-and-so's son's birthday today. And, what are you doing for dinner tonight? And am able to make those more personal connections that fill my cup, that make me feel like I'm being a better person.
Nicola found her own way of being a leader. Rita Cincotta has spent 25 years watching other leaders try to find theirs, and she's noticed something. The moment you admit you're still learning is the moment people actually trust you. Rita's the founder of The Deliberate Leader, and she still wears her own L plates.
I've got to turn up in this space and I've got to perform, but it doesn't mean that I can shut off everything else that's happening. And I reckon if leaders, number one, if they can better integrate, because this is where I see a lot of leaders get stuck. They go, oh, I've got to manage their performance and we've got these results to hit and we've got these KPIs and I need to manage their performance. And so they go into, well, they're just a resource that needs to work, and they forget that they're a human. And you can't ever forget that.
Yes.
A principle I always adopt is human first, right? So yes, we are working together on whatever, but you are a human first and foremost. So I'm going to pay attention to your humanity, what you need, even if it's just creating a bit of space for you. I don't need to come in and solve your problem. You're an adult. You've got that from an accountability perspective. But we can't separate those two things as leaders.
The word manage really gets my back up a lot of the time, and I'm not looking at your nodding head there. There's something about when we say I need to manage their performance, it can really limit what's possible, I reckon. And what's built into that statement is, or A, do you need to? Is that your job? Or is your job actually to unleash what's possible for this person and for the team or for the system that you're leading, whatever level you're thinking at? If you see your job in terms of the way you add value, coming back to that word, as managing someone's performance, like you said, it reduces the person to a unit or a widget of production as opposed to a human that's bringing everything. And the thing is, organizations are made up of humans. So that language, if I'm hearing that language, I'd want to challenge that. I need to manage performance, because I think it comes back to what limits us, what gets in the way. Well, maybe the stories we tell ourselves about what I'm actually here to do.
Well, it's a fear-based statement, right? So I need to manage performance. That always makes me think about, you feel that you need to manage that because that's actually your performance. If your team are not achieving the KPIs that they need to, you've got to go, well, what am I doing around that? Now, we can again go really tight, really hold them tight and go, I need to manage it, or a bit more exploratory. So what's happening here? What could be creating the barriers and blockages around us individually and collectively achieving what we need to?
I want to come back to the L plate idea. Where have you got L plates on?
This whole notion of vulnerability and authenticity, that lesson that I learnt with Wendy is now nearly 18 years on, because my daughter's about to turn 18. I reckon I've still got my L plates on in certain. So my default is it's all shiny and positive, but there's nothing bad to see here, right? So the duck that paddles underneath.
Love that you know that.
Oh, yeah, I know it. I had a friend share a comment with me that really slapped me, and she didn't literally slap me in the face, but it felt like a slap to the face. So my dad passed nearly 4 years ago, and she had really taken her time to reach out to me, and I was really offended by that. I was like, I need you. But I didn't tell her that I needed her. I let her know that my dad died, as I did with a bunch of people at the time. Dad had been sick for a while, and she really took her time to reach out to me. And when we finally spoke, I told her, I went, what's going on? I said, I expected to hear from you sooner. I needed you. And she said something that really hurt me at the time. She said, Rita, you've always got your shit together. And I really thought that I'd be a hindrance as opposed to a help. She said, I didn't think that you did need me. And when she said that, the reason it felt like a slap across the face is because I was like, shit, that's actually what I put out. Like I put out this, there's nothing messy to see here. We are all under control, right? The other way that I've got my L plate on, and it's a similar theme, is, I really now watch it with my role modeling to my kids. And with a client, obviously, you want the people that work with you, you don't want them to think that you're a bloody mess, right? You don't. But I think that the other side of that is that we can give off and we can emit this, I've got it under control. Where
bulletproof.
Then go, oh man, I can't learn from you because that is a level that's unattainable, right?
Yeah.
And that's where I've got the L plates on still. Every day it's like, it's okay to muck it up. It's okay. The perfectionism it's probably a little bit of perfectionism. I don't feel it's that, but it's more about, it's okay just to give off things are not perfect. They don't need to be perfect, and we've got a busy house. We're a blended family, 3 kids. Like we've got the whole step parent thing happening. We've got a child of our own.
Messy.
Like life's messy, right? Those continuing life lessons, Digby, continue to show me that I can't have it perfect. It's never going to be, there's nothing to see here because it's all polished. So that's probably the life lesson. And the ongoing kind of messiness of it means that there's always plenty to learn. It's never done. It's not like this is done and we've wrapped it up in a bow and it's finished and we move on to the next thing. That's probably where it is for me.
Who or what helps you drop that facade of perfection or bulletproofness?
Oh, it's my family for sure.
Really?
We rib each other a lot, like in a way, but with adults
that's cool.
Now, you just do. Like they call you on your shit. And so go, are you serious? Like who the hell do you think you are? So I think there's that. I think it's also not only my immediate family, but like my brother, my mum, like we can drop each other down a peg, which I think is helpful.
Yeah.
As my mum would say, well, you're too big for your boots.
Yeah, yeah.
And it's not in a psychologically damning way. It's in a just putting up a bit of a mirror and going, oi, like just get a grip on yourself, dude, and just what's really going on here. It's that feedback. I think now in the world where my world the last 8 years has been me having my own business, that's been harder because you don't have the big team to rely on.
You are the brand, right?
Yeah, that's right. I think you got to be really careful on who you pick to be in your squad. I have a little team, but absolutely, my team, it's the robustness of our conversations. It's the fact that, they are there to advise me rather than me telling them what to do. It's even my clients asking the vulnerable questions. Like every time we do a piece of delivery, we get feedback. It's like you get your report card, every time you finish a piece of delivery. And it might not be a feedback sheet, but it might be a debrief with the client. It might be in the moment when you're doing a piece of work, or even if you're working with an individual one-on-one and you see their face kind of change. You're getting those signs all the time. And I think with those signs that we get, because they're there, I really try hard to be curious around that as opposed to defensive. And so I go my human first principle and I go, what's happening for you right now? And I need to understand that before it's even, I've done something to offend or I've challenged them maybe in a way that they've not appreciated or been ready for. It's actually not about that. It's about what's happening for you here first.
Rita's philosophy is human first always. Erin Judge takes that idea somewhere further still. What if leadership was never about you in the first place? Erin spent her career inside some of New Zealand's toughest systems, child welfare, criminal justice, public reform, and she's worked out what it means to lead for something that outlasts you.
It was difficult. I was very fortunate that I got an in with a ministry through a paper that I was doing at uni, but I felt like a fraud the entire time. I didn't know how to operate in the workplace. I didn't know what professional was. So I think my instinct, being from Hastings, being from quite a low socioeconomic background, having always felt like an outsider in those, I guess, high-end spaces, my instinct was to be as different from myself as I could be. So I felt like I was acting all day, every day. The only thing that got me through was that I was naturally smart. So I did do a good job, despite the fact that it was really hard personally.
Can I just rewind? You'd say your instinct was to act, I can't remember exact words, but to be someone different.
Exactly.
What was that about?
I had gone to school in Havelock North, but the people that I went to school with had a pretty different, not just life, but intergenerational setup from what I had. And I think I learned pretty early on to just try and be a bit of a chameleon and fit into whatever space I was in.
What was the cost of that for you?
Oh, huge. Just exhaustion. When you're trying to be someone that you're not, your mind is running the entire time. Like, who was I meant to be today? What's this persona meant to be wearing? What word would this person use in this situation? It is exhausting.
Oh my God. Can you think of a specific story or time where you were really striving to fit in?
I can.
Yeah, tell us about that.
One comes straight to mind. So this is from high school. So this is really going to age me, this story. But back in Havelock North in the 90s, the thing to wear were Barker's track pants, those horrible men's Barker's track pants, and an Airtex and boat shoes. Now, we did not have the money for Barker's track pants, but I had a lot of jobs, cleaning, plucking leaves off grapevines, babysitting. And so I eventually saved up the $115 required for these Barker's track pants. And then when Mufti Day came around at school, I was so excited because finally I was going to fit in with these track pants. But all I had to wear with them was this kind of striped polo shirt that I had from the op shop. And so I walked into school and one of the kind of classic mean girls just looked at me and said, "Nice fake Airtex." And my track pants meant nothing. All of that effort that I had put into, trying to fit in had the counter effect. So I should have learned then, just give it up. You're not a boat shoes kind of gal. But unfortunately, I didn't learn in that moment. I kept going.
What do you reckon that high school age version of Erin, what advice would they have loved to get from the current version of Erin?
Probably something like, yep, you're a bit weird, but, you're cool. You're fine. Keep going. You'll be all right. Man, you should see your house when you're older. Man, you should see this cool job you're going to have. You should see this husband that you're going to have. You should see these amazing things you're going to have. You're fine.
You'll be all right. Just keep going. There is something to say you have to go through that. You can't just short circuit that stuff, right?
Oh, definitely.
You've got to learn the hard way about what you're not. And those blind alleys are the things that teach you the most. Yeah, that sounds like it's what's happened to you. You couldn't be the person you are now by not having experienced the stuff you'd experienced.
That's true. And I have worked with and come into contact with people that have never experienced hardship in life.
Oh, what do you notice?
That there's just a real lack of resilience. And when things go wrong, they fall apart. Whereas when things go wrong for me, I think, oh yeah, I know how to do this. Oh, I've dealt with worse than this. This is fine. Oh, the manager didn't like the paper we wrote. Who cares? That's not even in my top million problems of this week. With someone kind of falling apart in front of you, that's the worst thing that's ever happened to them. So I'm really grateful for everything that has made me as resilient as I am. I would say it's not about you. Don't make it about yourself. Try and impact the people that are around you. As individuals, we can only have so much impact on the world. I'd much rather create the ripple that impacted 100 people, that impacted 1,000 people, but it's got nothing to do with us. We're just, temporary messengers.
Erin said something profound there. We're just temporary messengers. It's not about us. And it reminds me of an article I wrote on this idea a while back called "We're All Fixed Term." None of us are permanent. We're just here doing our bit. I'll put a link to that in the show notes. So this idea that we're just temporary messengers runs through all 5 of these conversations, doesn't it? Like Jodi's gut, Sarah's rock bottom, Nicola's refusal to be a copy of someone else, Rita's L plates, and Erin's ripple effect. None of them are finished. None of them are pretending to be finished. And I reckon that's the real invitation here, not to arrive at some polished, finished version of leadership, but to keep showing up while you're still working it out. And courage isn't the absence of unfinished business, it's leading anyway. So here's a question for you. Where are you still wearing your own L plates? And what would it take to admit that out loud? If this episode's inspired you, I'd love it if you could share it with someone else you think might need to hear it. And if you don't want to miss another episode, go on and subscribe to Dig Deeper in your podcast app. There's plenty more good stuff to come. I'm Digby Scott, and this is Dig Deeper. Until next time, go well.